Welcome to By George, an 80 Players podcast here at the George Theater. I am your host and marketing associate, Miranda, and today I have with me
Mara Jill Herman. I say Mara like matchmaker, which is one of the songs in our show.
Yeah.
Or like Maggie or Map. That seems to help people.
That's awesome. Yeah. Whenever I read your name or I'm talking to people, I'm like, is it Mara, Myra? How do you? Yeah. Okay.
I get a lot of Mara too.
Mara, okay.
But, you know, I try to find these fun ways to help people. And in this show, it's perfect because we say it all night long. Matchmaker, matchmaker.
Exactly.
Mara.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be getting into all things Fiddler today. But first, before we get into that, I want to know a little bit more about you.
Sure.
So I sent you some questions earlier, but I did do a little research. I listened to some of the podcasts that you had been on. I looked at your website. You do so much. And I think it's phenomenal because I'm very much the same way. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to kind of know your background. And for the audience, where did you start in getting into theater?
For sure. Well, thanks for asking. Yeah. I am a native New Yorker. So I grew up on a steady diet of exposure to Broadway shows and musical theater. And I have a family full of arts patrons. My family doesn't really have any other performers in the mix, but a lot of creative people. So being a native New Yorker and having all this access to the arts and culture from such a young age, I just always had the opportunity to participate or be a viewer of great theater and great music and great museums. So all of that really influenced me at a young age. Yeah. And I had a very fun childhood full of community theater. I got into this as a professional later in my later teens, pretty much when I was about to head off to college. Right. But I did theater for fun as a kid. And that is where I fell in love. I found my people. I found like-minded friends who would nerd out with me on cast albums. And I was born on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And I lived there till I was 6. Yeah. So if we had stayed in the city, I probably would have gone to LaGuardia High School. Do you know LaGuardia, the Fame School? But we moved to Long Island. And so I continued to go to public, middle, and high school. And my teacher, Ron DeMeo, created this incredible program in Herrick's High School called STAC, Student Television Arts Company. Oh, cool. And at a very young age, I was learning about making digital videos and making movies. So in the morning, I did my academics, and for 4 years in the afternoon, I learned how to make movies. And having that skill set has stuck with me for my entire life as a critical thinker, as an analytical thinker, but also, practically speaking, I know how to edit video and make my own projects. And it's certainly come in handy as someone who auditions through self-tapes, which we can chat about later, but I don't have to outsource that. I can do it myself.
Right. That's so cool. So going from that kind of film and knowing that aspect, because I came from film.
I know, yeah.
And so that's what I had studied. And so how did you get to the theater and being on a stage?
Well, in parallel to the Student Television Arts program, I was also spending every summer at French Woods Festival, which was a summer camp, still exists, in upstate New York. And that was really pivotal for me. Gotcha. I looked forward. Even though I had STAC, I couldn't wait for the summer to roll around so I could be at summer camp where I did show after show after show. And I learned so much about Sondheim and Jason Robert Brown and Stephen Schwartz and some of the greatest composers that we have today. Yeah. And I really had this deep enrichment and education in our art form, which is musical theater. And so having that opportunity at a young age to go back to summer camp every year, plus STAC, really helped me in my formative years develop this great passion. And then being on Long Island, I was just a train ride away from Broadway. And I saw a lot of shows. And, you know, there's so much going on Long Island too. So I could see everything from community theater to semi-professional to professional. And I just couldn't get enough of it. Yeah.
So you're one of the only artists in your family or like performers?
We have a lot of artists, but no one's really a performer performer by trade.
Gotcha.
My mom's a writer, so
awesome.
I have strong influence from her. And I do write mostly nonfiction, though. And so she edits everything I write. And my dad's a lawyer. And he always says being a trial lawyer is like the theater of the law, because you do have to perform. It's a very public job, and you have to be persuasive and convince a jury.
Yes.
And my sister's really creative. She's into crafts, and she has her own business with branded merchandise. And my brother is a music lover through and through. He has a record collection of 1,500 vinyls.
My goodness.
And he plays a bunch of instruments too. So I have a lot of creatives in my family.
No, definitely a creative family.
Yeah.
I came from a family that, I'm one of the only artists.
Oh,
wow. One of the only creatives.
Wow.
My mom's a nurse and my dad's a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And so me coming from that family, it was when I was like, oh, I want to go to film school. They were like, are you sure about that? I don't know how you're going to feed yourself.
I know.
So with doing so much, I mean, again, I looked at your website. What do you classify yourself as? Like, what's the one, or is there no one thing? You are all of these things.
It's such a good question. I definitely started out as a performer, and that is where I fell in love with theater. And I think that's the first entry point for most young people. But my passion began on stage, and theater is a team sport, so I really wasn't playing hockey or soccer or tennis competitively, but I was in every show you could imagine, in my school, in my camp, and in the community.
Right.
And so, yes, I identify as a performer first.
Okay.
And something that is a through line for me, which is what you picked up on my website, is gathering people and community organizing, which inevitably became the skill set that you need as a producer. I don't think I knew that when I was a young person, but I was definitely in student government and very active in advocating for my peers. And so advocacy is a big piece of what I do. And I'm really interested in the intersection between artistry and advocacy. And sometimes that happens just purely by reciting the text and music in the script as an actor. And sometimes that happens when you're producing your own visions, and we can talk all about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm also a producer, and so being in the film industry, I think we have a lot in common in that way.
We do. I can't tell you how excited I was when I was watching everything on 80 Player's Instagram before I got here, and I saw the drone shots of someone fiddling on the roof, and I was blown away.
I can't take all of the credit for that. That was our director, Jesse Groth-Olson, but I did help in bringing it all together. And so having this, to be a producer, I feel like you have to have this logistic mindset. And then you're also a performer, and so you're out on stage and you have this creative mindset. How do those two worlds kind of blend?
I've heard from a lot of people, you're very organized. And I didn't realize that not all performers are organized, especially if you're a swing or an understudy, you have to be organized. But not everybody has that brain. And I seem to be organized, and that organization lines up neatly for me with big picture thinking. That's some of the feedback that I've gotten from clients or collaborators. You're very thorough, you have big picture thinking. So I like to think of all the phases, meaning pre-production, production, and post-production when it comes to putting on a show or a benefit concert or making a short film or a video. I like to see all phases, and that certainly can help me as a performer in terms of thinking ahead. I mean, we can talk about my character in the show and Fruma Sarah makeup and quick changes.
Exactly.
And I don't know how much to give away or not give away, but I don't think that spoils anything. But just thinking ahead. Sometimes you have these constraints and you have to creatively problem solve. I think that's true whether you're a performer or producer. Back to the team sport thing, I never wanted to do this alone. It can't be done alone. First of all, it requires, at least in musical theater, musicians, writers, interpreters, creative artists to come in and deliver the work, right? And so I just think that to do it in a vacuum is not the goal. To do it in this participatory fashion with an audience is always the goal. And also, I think that I like looking out for my peers too. I get a lot of satisfaction in helping others.
Yeah.
So this again could be the student government girl who matured to producer. I mean, in college, I used to look up auditions and send the ones that I thought were great to my friends onward.
Yeah.
And they used to call me Agent Mara.
That's awesome.
Like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I don't really see myself going into agenting, but I do get a certain amount of satisfaction in, again, it's like creative problem solving and thinking who's right for this job and who's right for that casting and who's right for this role. And I guess what I'm trying to say is connecting people is another one of my passions. And being a connector is at the core of producing because it's all about relationships.
Yeah. Let's get into Fiddler on the Roof.
Sure. Let's get into Fiddler.
So, oh man, I just already have so many questions.
Great.
I don't know where to lead first.
Great. How about we start with what this means to me doing Fiddler, period?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Getting to do this show now is really, really special to me for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And I did Fiddler for the first time as a kid in my middle school production in the ensemble.
Yeah.
And then I did another production as a kid in community theater as Sprinza or Sprinza. And so it's one of the daughters. And I didn't have the I haven't had the opportunity to revisit it really until now.
Yeah.
And it's not for lack of trying. I auditioned for a lot of productions in my 20s that just didn't work out.
Man.
And, that's not actually an uncommon story. I actually share that with Adam, who plays Tevye. We are both New Yorkers and Jewish artists who lean into that aspect of our identity. And it doesn't always mean it's a bullseye.
Right.
And I have a lot of thoughts on why that might be. When I entered show business as an adult around 18, we weren't exactly having all the conversations that we're having now about authentic representation on stage. And there are still questions about which rules apply to which minorities. However, I'll say I don't think that only Jews can play Jews.
Okay.
I think that it's really nice when Jewish artists get priority to tell their story in an example like this because the story is so specifically about the Jewish experience. And also, as long as there's outreach effort and as long as there is effort to make that happen from the hiring perspective, as long as that effort is there, there's also a really nice teachable opportunity and educational opportunity for allyship.
Right.
And I think what the theater is doing by bringing on Rabbi Adrian Scott is a really beautiful thing. And I have felt so welcome as the outsider coming from New York in this space where I really didn't know anybody and I had been to Texas only once. And it wasn't for work. It was for a friend's bachelorette party.
Okay, yeah.
I felt so welcome and valued and empowered to bring my knowledge and authentic identity to the table and rehearsal process. So kudos to Aaron Brown and Courtney Jones and Jonathan Kraft for embracing that.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Adrian has been such a wonderful resource for the team in terms of cultural and religious aspects in the storytelling of Fiddler. So I feel that this company is really taking great care with the text and the score to deliver a production that is thoughtful and sensitive. And I knew that once we got an email from Kevin Dean that we were going to be in great care because he let us know about Rabbi Adrian's participation. And I just got the warm fuzzies because you don't always get that. And so, like I said, it took me a couple years to finally get the professional opportunity to do Fiddler. And I'm just so happy. Yeah. I'm just so happy because this show means so much to me. I mean, there are definitely other Jewish musicals out there, but this is the quintessential one. Yeah, this is the most famous one by far. Yeah. I grew up singing all of these songs. And little fun fact,
Yeah.
I actually saw a production and reviewed a production in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And I don't speak a word of Japanese,
Yeah, okay.
but I was there touring with a show, and in my downtime, I was doing some freelance writing for BroadwayWorld.com, and I got to review 4 shows, one of which was Fiddler.
Yeah.
And I had seen Fiddler a million times in English, and I have to tell you, to this day, it's one of the most impactful theater going experiences I've ever had.
Wow.
Because the person to my left and the person to my right who appeared Japanese were crying and moved, and I was moved, and I knew every beat of that show without understanding Japanese because I just knew the story so well.
Right.
And the legend has it that the producers in Japan, when they first encountered Fiddler, said, "How did these Americans write such a Japanese show?"
Wow.
Because, as you know, the themes of Fiddler are about tradition and family and overcoming hardship in a changing world. So legend has it that those producers said this was such a Japanese show. And that just shows you it's a really universal theme.
Yeah. It's timeless and it's universal. Because you say, Japanese, and I think like American show, I think Jewish show, I think everyone.
I
like
know,
this.
I have chills.
And so I think, obviously everyone can relate to family struggles and wanting to keep the tradition, wanting to keep your culture alive.
Absolutely.
And having modern society and having modern times come in, and they're like, well, this is what we're doing. And so how do you find that balance? I've never heard that, and that's wonderful.
I know.
Yeah.
And the other reason why this is so important to me is going back to that actor-producer calling, right?
Yeah.
Most of my producing work is in the lane of advocacy and activism.
Right.
And there's always a thread of being a Jewish woman baked into the pieces that I tend to produce.
Right.
And sometimes you get to advocate for your values in that lane, but in Fiddler, we really get to share a story that holds up a mirror to certain things that are going on in the world right now, like the rise in anti-Semitism. And so to be able to be that vessel of what these writers created 60 years ago, by the way, this is the 60th anniversary of Fiddler right now. And I guess the saying goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's not my favorite quote in context of what we're talking about, but it does certainly wake people up.
Right.
And one thing I'll say too about coming to Texas, really for the first time, at least for the first time for work and the Christian theater aspect, I didn't really think about the Christian part too much. If anything, I just thought, am I going to have culture shock? Because I spent such little time here. I did drive through Dallas once when I was touring with a show. I was touring with Jesus Christ Superstar, and I remember someone was like, that's where JFK was shot. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But that was the extent, aside from that fun trip I told you about when I went to Austin.
Yeah.
Never been to Houston. And so what has been such a lovely surprise is how, again, there's that welcoming quality here. There's definitely a familial culture here.
Yeah.
And that's what feels very Christian to me, is how loving and accepting of a different culture, of an other.
Yeah.
Being this New Yorker, being this Jewish person coming in and not knowing what to expect. And so that was a great surprise.
Yeah.
And I don't think I thought too much about what it would be like to work at a Christian theater.
Yeah.
Maybe it crossed my mind, are we going to have prayer circle before the show?
I
but
see.
I don't think I asked the question. I just let it play out how it let it play out.
And going to that, so you say familial.
Yeah.
Can you bring us a little bit behind the scenes of what, because I know that you guys have some movie nights.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys gather a lot, like in the green room, and they're having outside activities.
Sure.
What has that been like? How has that kind of played out?
Yeah, well, there are 5 of us in the cast who are Jewish, so I don't take that responsibility lightly at all.
Right.
And if we can be a resource
Mm-hmm.
to others in the cast, we're happy to be. And also, I don't claim to know everything about everything related to Judaism, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm always learning,
Right.
which being a questioner is very Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And so Aviva, who plays Golda, had the great idea to spearhead movie night so we could introduce some of our cast to some great Jewish movies to, you know, pull inspiration from for their
Right.
characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so far we've watched Frisco Kid, which was hilarious, and I had never seen that before.
Yeah.
And we have some other ideas in the works.
Mm-hmm.
We're chatting right now after tech and opening weekends. So
Yeah.
we put a little pause on the movie night,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they'll resume soon.
I was going to say, because now, I mean, last week was opening. And so I know that it's
we
gotten
were
really busy.
tired.
Yeah, exactly.
We needed to rest and recuperate.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say, speaking from my own personal, I have been able to do that. I got some nice rest.
That's really
Yeah,
important.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
doing 6 shows a week that
Right.
are 3 hours long.
Oh, yeah. The show is not short.
Yeah.
She's long,
Mm-hmm.
but I love every minute.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes by actually quite
Oh,
fast.
great. That's great
Because
to hear.
I mean, I sat in on a couple of the rehearsals. I came to Final Dress, and I've come and seen the show twice for
great.
other reasons.
Yeah.
And so it moves very quickly.
Awesome.
By the time you're like, oh, we're done, or we're already done with the first act. So
Awesome.
no, you guys, and I know, and again, because I kind of see all the behind the scenes,
Yes.
and I get the emails and everything about you guys
Sure.
trying to stay on time and everything that we're doing, trying to get everybody in. It's such a collaborative effort
It's a
from
business.
everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Customer service, entertainment, logistics, everything.
So can you take us a little bit? So we've talked about the cast.
Uh-huh.
Take us a little bit into your character.
Yes,
so Fruma
of
Sarah, I know that you
course.
have to get in all of that makeup and all of that dress. And kind of, but before we get to that,
Sure.
I get ahead of myself.
No, it's okay.
What's kind of your process for getting into this character, and how have you approached this character?
Oh, great question. Well, in terms of getting into show mode, because I do play 2 characters. I'm in the ensemble. My ensemble name is Miranda.
Yeah.
And then I do play Fruma Sarah, and she's featured in the dream sequence in Act 1. And so I have a bunch of costume changes, and I have some very high rangey singing, and I'm zipping around the stage.
Yeah.
So it's particularly true for this role, but most musicals, I always need to do cardio before the show. It could be in the morning, it could be in the afternoon, but I always need to do something like 30 or 45 minutes of cardio just to get my heart rate up.
Gotcha.
So I'm not panting on stage while I'm trying to sing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people who sing and do triple pirouettes and carry on like so unfazed are my heroes.
Yeah, I was going to say hero.
They are singing athletes. Musical theater performers are athletes.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't have to do anything close to that, but I am singing on a moving set piece. I also have to climb a flight of stairs before finishing my song.
Right.
So if I'm not doing cardio in the morning or the afternoon, then I'm not going to have the command of my breath and all of my technique that I need to rely on to give a good performance. So that's number 1. So I do cardio, and Natalie Lerner has been so kind and lent me a bike.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I've been riding my bike around the neighborhood this summer. And I do stretching, and I also do a short vocal warm-up, sometimes with the cast in the dressing room, because there is a bit of a group vocal warm-up happening, and sometimes by myself.
It didn't cross my mind once the physical toll that it would take.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because, I mean, I live with a musical theater person, and I know the exercise that she has to do, but I also and I'm not a performer, singing in my car will run out of breath, and I'm like, add that you have to do all these quick changes, and you have to run across stage.
Right. Well, someone that I worked with, a writer, Hey Jay Falzone, he once made a really interesting analogy to sports. In sports, at large, which gets televised and can entertain so many more people at once in these large arenas, spectators get to see the player's pain. So if you throw a foul ball, or if you fall down, get knocked down by the ball, or miss a free throw or something, or you end up with an injury, that is more commonly addressed in the moment on the field. In show business, if something goes wrong, you sort of have to smile through it and then exit the stage. Now, I'm also going to say that I'm not a fan of the show must go on. I'm a fan of the show must go on safely. So if you are hurt in the middle of a performance, you got to let your stage manager know so that you can take care of your body.
Right.
But I think the point I'm trying to make is, on average, spectators don't really get to see performers in pain because you just want to see a magical show unfold before your eyes. So maybe not until this behind the scenes Instagram era did people really get a look behind the curtain, you know?
Yeah. I love that analogy.
Yeah,
it's
a good one, right? Go Jay.
But then and this is like, you're getting a side of me I feel like most people on the podcast don't.
Okay.
Is because I'm also very like psychological minded. Like
same,
I love
same,
watching
same.
humans. I love like, why do people do what they do? And so now I'm thinking sports.
Right.
Like when people get injured on the field, you like the crowd rallies around them and you're worried for them. And but also there's this energy in the room of, are they going to get better? And now the other team and this and that. And all of that is completely cut from theater.
Totally. It's weird.
Because of this idea that like, okay, we have to suspend our disbelief. We have to suspend the audience's disbelief.
Right.
And there's this weird, that's where like film almost comes into theater and like a recorded of like, well, it needs to be perfect because this is entertainment. This is a show. But it's live. And so there's something that's so interesting that isn't an aspect of theater. Right. That's not something that,
I mean, I have seen at the highest level, I have seen some shows stop, and I'm glad for that.
No,
because
of course,
we are humans at the end of the day, not robots.
Right.
But it isn't the norm, and clearly we want to work in spaces that are safe so we can avoid those things proactively.
Of course, yeah.
And I will say too, just getting back to my character from Miranda to Fruma Sarah, I have had so much support from the team in terms of the makeup plot, right? Because getting in the makeup, I have a lot of time, and getting out of the makeup, I don't.
Yeah.
So that's because I have to go back to Miranda after Fruma Sarah, and I only have about 5 minutes to do it.
Ooh,
so again, I don't know when this is going to air. I don't want to give too much away.
No, please. I'm going to let this be our spoiler episode.
Great.
So please let us.
So I have to paint my face all base white because I play a ghost, for listeners who don't know, in a dream sequence. And I play a ghost, so I'm painting my face all white and black to, really play up the drama. And it's very intensive. It is kind of therapeutic to get in, but then once I'm in, and then I go into the dream sequence, and I'm coming backstage to get the makeup off and do the costume change to get back on stage for Sunrise Sunset, it is like being shot out of a cannon. So it's an adrenaline rush, but I have everything I need backstage as far as, makeup remover and towels and to wash my face, and a lot of support.
Right.
And
our awesome wardrobe.
Exactly.
Crew.
And there were, with the plot, I said, I'll try anything.
Right.
And we did. We tried a lot of different things. We tried glow makeup, and that wasn't really showing. We tried blacklight makeup. That wasn't really showing. We tried glitter. I guess it was showing, but the maintenance and the containment of glitter is really difficult. And getting out of it, it was too difficult to get out of. And I was getting stressed about getting to my next cue. So it was cut. And I hugged Leah big time when the glitter was cut. Because, you have to ask these questions. Is the glitter worth me missing the next scene?
Right. Missing a cue, or even just the mental toil.
And also what has been planned. The director and choreographer planned something that I was integrated in. And then, you either have to adjust or cut something. And I'm really glad we cut the glitter.
Yeah. Well, glitter on its own is already
it's a mess.
Under a time constraint.
Probably look good, but
Are you? So I don't remember the glitter, but I remember the glow in the dark paint or the black light. So is that not part of the show
that was
anymore?
cut? Yeah. Yeah, apparently it wasn't reading. I don't know.
Have you, so I sent it, this is our,
yeah.
Have you seen the photos that we sent out?
I saw a couple. Yes. And I saw the ones that had
Mm-hmm.
me in the makeup that we're talking about. They didn't make the final show.
Okay. I thought those photos came out so wonderful. So we had 2 behind the scenes of that. I was getting all of the stills, and the person who was with me and my intern Jordan, he was getting all of the videos. And so he was up real close to the stage. I was further back in the house. But the lighting in there, I just couldn't get any good shots of you. And when I saw you come out on stage with the glowing makeup, I was like, I need a photo of that. And then I looked through all of mine. I was like, oh, they're so dark. And then I saw Jordan's footage, and I was like, he got it.
Yay, Jordan. Yay, Jordan.
So good. And he also got the flip. I don't know if you've seen. I'll have to post that one as well. But it's in one of our current advertisements. I think I just posted it this morning.
Amazing.
Where Carolina, she flips right on the edge of the stage.
Yes.
He was right down there. I thought when it happened, she had kicked the camera out of his hands. I was so scared because afterwards there was a moment of recognition where she kind of looked at him and pointed. And I was like, oh no, it's broken. Goodness. But he just missed the camera.
Wow.
Anyways, that's off topic, but
no.
So talking about Fruma Sarah,
yes,
I know you played 2 characters, but this is something. So I'm talking with my next host, or my next co-host is going to be Jonathan Kraft, the music director.
Oh, great.
And so I'm so excited to talk to him about all these music questions. But I want to talk to you, or at least want to let you know, it's not necessarily a question. The line that you sing at the very end, that kind of last when you're up on the rafter. And oh man, the line, the words are escaping me right now.
Yeah.
But that whole section chills every time you sing it.
That's cool.
And so I have that I don't know if everybody has it, when certain melodies are sung or when certain high pitches, I get the chills in the back or the hair stands up. And I just wanted to let you know that I love that so much. So cool. And I think your voice is just perfect for that little sequence. So I'm just telling all of our audiences, when you come and see the show, like you should, look out for that sequence.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun, and it's certainly challenging, and it's really great to play a villain for a little snippet of the show.
Yeah.
I haven't had the chance to play too many villains, but do you know Tangled, the Disney movie? I played Mother Gothel. That was really fun.
That's awesome.
And I'd love to play more villains. What villain should I play, Miranda?
I think Mother Gothel is actually really good.
So
I think that's definitely your skill set and your features and everything.
Yeah, totally.
So we're running out of time already.
No.
And I'm so sorry. But we're going to get into some lightning round questions really quickly. So what is one of the biggest mishaps you've had on stage?
Okay, sure. I did this gala concert inside the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City.
Okay.
And in the room called the Temple of Dender, there were all these tables where the guests were sitting, and I was one of the singers. And at one point, I had to be on a pod.
Yeah.
And I had a handheld mic, and it wasn't my turn to sing yet. It was a quiet ballad, but I was going to provide vocals shortly. And I got up on this pod, but my stiletto heel got caught between the pod and what was next to me was essentially like a moat.
Yeah, okay.
And I felt my heel get caught in the space. And on this hot mic, I went, woo! And it wasn't my turn to sing or speak. And somebody had a ballad going. And I just felt like I disturbed the entire moment. Those 3 seconds felt like 5 minutes.
Of course,
I thought I was going to fall into the moat at this really fancy gala. Thankfully, I did not.
Yeah.
But that interruption really embarrassed the heck out of me. And I guess I would have made a lot bigger of a scene if I did fall.
Right.
But just the noise on a hot mic.
No, I love that you're already thinking the silver lining is that it could have been way worse. Yeah.
I definitely beat myself up for a long time, even though clearly was an accident. And I didn't mean to do that. You could do. But I was embarrassed, and I got over it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So we're in our last show of our season of tradition.
Cool.
And of course, it's Fiddler, and it's all about tradition. So I want to know, what is one of your favorite traditions that's either personal, occupational, spiritual?
Well, I shared my physical warm-up routine with you. So, I know. I thought about this question beforehand. I have a nerdy artsy tradition.
Okay.
So whenever I have a big audition or I'm preparing to do a role at a theater, I love to go to the Lincoln Center Performing Arts Library where they've archived Broadway shows. So I've been doing this since I was a teenager and preparing to go off to college.
Yeah.
And all my college auditions, I did that for this production too. I made a reservation to watch the Fiddler on the Roof revival so that I could start the research process, start the immersion process.
Yeah.
And it's like a little haven for me, you know, to sit in this corner tucked away at the Lincoln Center Library. They have this incredible archive. It's a free resource. And I just feel really swept up in that experience of doing my homework and seeing other artists' interpretations of the work that I'm about to engage in. So I love going to that little artistic haven inside of Lincoln Center.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is, libraries and just any like cozy nook.
Yep.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
What is your favorite musical number in the show in Fiddler?
Okay. Well, obviously The Dream, because I get to be a crazy ghost.
Yeah.
But to watch the bottle dance.
There we go.
Oh my God. The bottle dance is thrilling every night. Like what you were saying with the hairs. I feel that way genuinely.
Yeah.
We're not acting when when we watch our peers do it.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to see them do the bottle dance every night.
Do you, because I haven't asked anybody else
Yeah.
this yet, do you know how they do the bottle dance?
There's no trickery.
Is there really no
balance
trickery?
and core strength. Go Courtney Jones and all of those amazing dancers.
I did not know that. Oh, that changes a lot. Okay, because I was 100% under the impression there's some kind of magnet that they're...
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. That is a feat. That is incredible.
I know. And, you know, that choreography is really famous.
Yeah.
So I feel like there are certain things that draw people to see Fiddler, whether if I were a rich man or a matchmaker. But I feel like people who know something about musicals know about the bottle dance because it's pretty iconic.
It is. Again, being a film person and not theater, I hadn't seen Fiddler before we had started this production at all. And so it was me and my boss had sat down to watch the movie and it was the first time I had seen it.
Cool,
and so there's so much in it that I was like, I've already know about this. I already know about this because it's just in pop culture. It is just one of those shows. Incredible.
Totally.
So my final question to you, I don't want to come to the end, but why should people come see Fiddler on the Roof?
Sure. Well, there's beautiful music and incredible acting and dancing happening here at 80 Players. And we also touched on this before, but the themes are really present and so relatable regardless of if you hold this Jewish identity or not. It's about family and culture and tradition and overcoming hardship. And I don't think it gets more relatable than that.
Yeah.
So this is a story for everybody. And I can't wait to see everybody throughout the summer. We have a really nice long run. And I think another treat for Houston is that some of these summer theaters rehearse really briefly, and then the show runs for a weekend or two weekends. But you have ample chances to come see us.
Yes.
Because we're running for a whole month and 5 weeks, and we've just added shows.
I was just going to say, we just added 2 more
demand.
shows. So they are selling. Those tickets are selling. So please go get them if you haven't already. Yeah. Mara, thank you so much for being on this episode of By
George.
Pleasure. Is there anything that we've missed? Any other last things that you would like to add about the behind the scenes of Fiddler?
Yes.
Are you? Go ahead.
One really special treat that I got to make during Tech Week was a birthday video for my 98-year-old grandma, Mama Ruth. She's the only remaining grandparent I have, the sole matriarch, and a huge reason that I have such strong Jewish values. And one of the hardest things about going away to do regional theater is my 98-year-old grandma is not able to be here. So instead, I decided to bring Anna Texas to her. Yeah. And Anna Texas, I have to credit, is Jonathan Kraft's word.
Go. Okay.
But I made this incredible collaborative video with the team, and we put together a birthday behind the scenes project for her. And my family had a party and they screened it. It was about 14 minutes long. And she was quelling and plotzing and eating up every bit of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just so delighted that I could still share a piece of this with her thanks to technology and my family getting it into her lap, you know?
Right, yeah.
And how appreciative I am of the team here that they wanted to participate and play along and contribute for this almost 100-year-old woman. You know, she's gonna live forever. I don't know.
Exactly.
She loves theater, and so I'm just so grateful that we were able to collaborate behind the scenes and make this birthday surprise video for her. That was the only thing I wanted to add, and if it makes it in, great, and if it doesn't, I understand.
No, I will find a way to edit it into, cool. Even if it's like the little bit that I put at the very end of the episode.
Totally.
But I also, now I'm going to bring up another question.
Sure.
About the set deck that we have for this show.
Right.
Yes. So I had
Thank
seen
you for asking that.
in that 14-minute video, because you sent out everybody the link and I watched it immediately.
Thank you.
I absolutely loved it. And I love that we get to see behind the scenes of just what
of my editing.
I do. I do. It was wonderful. It was actually like watching it. I was like, so we're trying to figure out more things that we can do with social media.
Right.
And a while ago, we used to do Saturday takeovers where we would let one of the cast or crew sign into Instagram and they can kind of show their day. Yeah. And after I'd seen that video, I was like, maybe Mara could do one of those.
That.
Yeah.
I also think, shout out to Kyler. I think Kyler would really enjoy doing that.
Definitely.
But thank you. Yeah. So you're addressing the question of the portraits that
we have
dress the proscenium. And during rehearsal, we found out that there would be portraits all along the stage. And Aviva Golda said to Aaron, my husband could easily find some of these pictures of my ancestors. Do you want them? And he said, yes, of course. And then that invitation was extended to all the Jewish cast members who have these Eastern European roots.
Right.
And so I told my mom, and she sent me pictures of my maternal ancestors, Pearl and Bloom. And their portraits are hanging on the proscenium as part of our set decoration. And I just think that is such a nice touch.
Yeah.
Again, welcoming in the outsider and making us feel so seen and appreciated for our authenticity. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. And that was something that I didn't know that they had done.
Yeah.
That I just thought,
cool.
Yeah, I had thought, not until I had seen your video that I was like, the level of detail with this show. And just the consideration on everyone's part. I mean, I know what we're doing in marketing, but now to hear it in set designing and hear it from the director and the choreographer and bringing in Rabbi Scott and everybody, it is... I love what we're doing here. And I wouldn't expect it any other way, but it's just amazing to hear that again.
There's a lot of intention and care. And that's why I feel really grateful that this is my first professional fiddler.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm having a blast.
I'm so happy.
Me too.
Well, thank you again for being on this episode of By George.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to get your tickets to Fiddler on the Roof. It runs until August 4th. We did just open 2 more shows on July 24th and 31st, I believe. Those are 2 Wednesdays. So come get your tickets. They are selling fast, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
This has been By George, an 80 Players at the George Theater podcast. Hosted and produced by Miranda Zapes. Listen anywhere you listen to podcasts and follow us on Instagram at By George Theater. That's THEATRE. Sure to like, share, and subscribe. And By George, we'll see y'all next time. Around.
Yes.
But I'm going to take a quick break. The sun is in my eyes. I'm going to try and negate it.
Sure. Yeah. We can't have you in a total glare the rest of this interview. Miranda is the coolest. Fun facts. I love string bean casserole. Sounds like the doorbell. Fun facts. I've been to Antarctica. Just over here being a goofball. I know that she does a lightning round at the end, so I'm just trying to think what could be useful. Miranda is nailing it.
There we go.
Better?
Way better.
We're back.
Awesome.
Welcome back. Thank you for making sure the sun wasn't in your eyes the rest of the interview.
Yeah.
That would have been annoying.
No, I saw it and I was just keep going, and I was listening to you. I promise.
I could tell. You didn't seem distracted at all.
Thank you.
If anything, I might have zoned out because I was like, I see people walking. Am I even making sense?
No, you were completely making sense.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about producing, and then I went on. So I finished my thought. Awesome.
Yes.
So let's get into Fiddler on the Roof.
Sure.